What is a local urban legend where you grew up that may not be known to the wider world? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. In my hometown in Wisconsin, it's been reported multiple times of people hearing large and loud booms across town. It's been reported so many times that many scientists can't agree on what is causing the booms. People in my old town used to tell stories about a literal Neanderthal caveman who would sometimes roam forests in the area, but I'm pretty sure it was just a random homeless dude. I grew up in Florida. There's a place for mystics called Casa Daga. It's where all the fortune tellers and grifters live. In this small town, there's a thing called the Devil's Chair. You're supposed to go there at midnight and call for the Prince of Darkness. People have claimed to have been attacked, and they say there are minions who roam the area waiting for their master to return. I went there when I was in high school with friends. It was scary back then because I was ignorant. The group of girls were scared, and there were several guys trying to get them to let them fuck them on the Devil's Chair. There's also a place called Oviedo, where they have what is called the Oviedo Lights. Legend has it that Indian children were drowned in the Econocohatchee River, and there's a bridge crossing the river. At night, the wisps come out over the bridge and attempt to trick drivers off the bridge. I've gone over this bridge many times, but not at night. The Trowbridge Tree. Detroit, Michigan, 20 years ago. A gnarly old-ass crabapple tree on Trowbridge Street. If you watched it as the sun set in the fall, the trunk turned into a snarling face with glowing eyes. It didn't work every night. Best if there was a red sky. But that tree made hair stand up on your neck, and girls do that high-pitched thing and cover their face. Lots of fun on dates in high school. Ann Arbor, Michigan. Some of the white tombstones in the cemetery on the hill were carved from rock that absorbs light and faintly glows at night. This only really works where the trees are trimmed and the stones are maintained. They have grown so dirty you can't see it more than a few feet away now with the conditions just right. I went to college in Iowa City. There was a long-running urban legend that somebody robbed a bank in broad daylight wearing a Big Bird suit and was never caught. There was also an urban legend that Dwayne Ellert and Floppy, a local children's TV host and his ventriloquist puppet, opened for and upstaged Deep Purple in the early 1970s. The story goes like this. A member of the opening act band was sick, and as a joke, someone suggested DENF. But sure enough, he was available and agreed to it. When he walked on stage, the crowd rose to its feet and kept chanting, "Floppy, Floppy, Floppy." I suspect that's an urban legend because if it was true, somebody who was at the show would have come forward and said they were there. This would have happened in Des Moines, Iowa. The Dalgalgishan of South Korea. It literally means egg ghost. It's the spirit of a person who has been forgotten. Over time, its features fade to a smooth surface, and it loses all sense of humanity. If you happen to come upon one, it's impossible to reason with it because its very human nature is gone, and it kills you. In some places, if I recall correctly, they believe that Dalgalgishan literally turn into eggs. The Spook Light. It's a light or group of lights that hang in the air when you park on a certain road. People who are into going to look at it are almost always also going there to party though, so. Okay, this is more a tradition than an urban legend, but I think is worthy to share. In my region, we celebrate a thing called Tio De Nadal. It consists in having a piece of wood with a painted face and covered with a blanket. In Christmas, children hit it with sticks, spoons, or some kind of object while singing, and afterwards, it shits Christmas presents under the blanket. Nice. My hometown has the Grey Lady. She was allegedly a lady who had jumped off the large tower of the parish church, which many people have in it past. Supposedly, if you circled the tower several times whilst chanting her name, she would show up. Many a person tried it and failed. No idea if anyone ever succeeded. For me, I was too scared to even try. Another well-known town ghost was Mickey the Monk, who supposedly haunted the local arts center. The reason being, it used to be part of a monastery. I spent several years as part of a local drama troupe and never saw him, but I heard plenty of stories from people who had. There's also the legend of Black Shook, which I found utterly terrifying as a kid, As someone once told me, even thinking about him would cause him to appear. Whoever told me that was an evil, evil person. Grew up in Central Florida. There was a legend a guy who lived in the local river had his daughter entombed in his front lawn with a window in front of her face so that the sun would shine on it. People claimed he would fire warning shots if you went to look at her, though. There was also a restaurant near the railroad tracks that was allegedly haunted. It was claimed a woman was murdered in one of the bathrooms back in the 50s or 60s. In addition, the restaurant was named after a little girl, Ashley, who had been hit by a train and allegedly haunted the area. I will say the bathroom in that place was sinister AF. I also felt someone push me from behind while walking down the stairs once, though I assumed one of the steps may have just been angled weird, which gave me that sensation. I live in Serbia, spent my childhood in a village. Here in the Balkans, every village looks like it's haunted, so the old people always have stories about it. The story from mine is that during World War I, when Bulgarians occupied Serbia, many of the Bulgarian dead soldiers were buried atop the village on a hill. That graveyard is still there, and all of the village population says it's haunted. Many of them claim they saw a ghost of an old man dressed in white during full moon, who they called the Silver Man. According to the legend, the ghost would be standing, not doing anything, and he wasn't hostile. Then the moonlight would illuminate the area, and he would just disappear. Now, I wouldn't believe this at first, but it was actually true, because my friends literally saw something like it when they were walking close to the graveyard at night. It was around 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. They were returning from a party and went to take a walk, so they sat on the road next to the graveyard to rest, and when they looked at each other, the moonlight illuminated them, and they saw each other like a glowing white reflection. They ran away, and we never went anywhere close to that graveyard ever again. A funny part is, when they told the other people in the village that story, everyone was scared shitless, except one of the locals who lived near the graveyard. He calmly said that things happen to him regularly when he goes home. He has gotten used to it, LMAO. That a black panther has been seen by the locals around coastal Vic, Australia. It escaped from a circus that came to town a very long time ago and has been sighted numerous times by locals, but has never been caught and still lives somewhere around, but nobody knows where its home is. It's supposedly silent and really fast. People only get quick glances, or when they do see it, before they can alert to anybody, it escapes back into the wild. People have gotten photos of it, and it's 100% true. It has never been recaptured, so it just lives here and roams, but it's very, very rare. If you are lucky enough to even just get a glance at it by the time it notices you, then it's usually gone. There are two near me. The hairy hands which supposedly grab at the wheel when driving in an attempt to make you crash. It only happens on one particular road in Devon. The grave of Kitty J. A woman buried at a crossroads due to committing suicide and not being able to be buried in a consecrated grounds. Her reason for suicide isn't clear, but there are always fresh flowers on the grave, and there have been sightings of ghostly figures by the grave by drivers. A very small village, literally like 200 people, and there's that legend that there was a family, a girl, mom, and dad. The girl accidentally burned all her dad's crops, which meant they would starve to death. When her dad found out about this, he started chasing her with an axe. The girl ran into the woods, her dad tripped there, and his axe wasn't in his hand anymore. The girl grabbed it and killed her father with the axe. When she came back home, her mom saw she's covered in blood. The mother hung herself, and when the girl saw her corpse, she did the same thing, but near her father's corpse in the forest. Weird things are happening. Dogs, cows, or literally any animal hates being there. They look scared and avoid going into it. If there's like a swing or something like that, it swings on its own, and sometimes you can just find small trees that are broken in half. Wind is almost always very small, and in woods there's almost none. No name. There's a legend in where I grew up in about a shadow entity that doesn't have a name. The entity lurks around in your dreams, feeding you bad thoughts and telling lies to you in hope of driving you to suicide. The entire story comes from a child that was abandoned at a young age. As time passed, the boy started to hallucinate and told everyone about his hallucinations and then committed suicide. To summarize it, No Name is a child's story about a shadow entity that enters your dreams and gives you suicidal thoughts in order to drive you to suicide, and usually drives kids into insanity. It was a popular story in my school due to some suicides that happened in it, and after someone told the story, people started to like it, and some even believed it. Obviously, the story isn't true, but at the same time, it can be true. No Name could probably just be some sleep paralysis demon that traumatized some kids that were already in a bad mental state one day, and the kids kept having nightmares about the trauma demon. No Name could have been a hallucination caused from sleep deprivation. I did not grow up with this, but it's a game called Mama Seeks. Basically, all you need is an object of personal value, a candle, and the ability to count down from 10. Then you say, "Mama, Mama, hear our shriek, Mama, Mama, come and seek." You count down from 10, and if you no longer want to play, just don't get to 1. Anyway, this summons an entity known as Mama. Mama is described by someone to look messy, like a corpse with no eyes. Now, if you're playing with a group of people, she will pick one of you to go after at random. If you're playing alone, she will definitely pick you. The only way to get rid of Mama is to double tap someone, and Mama is then transferred to that person. It doesn't have to be someone in your game. It could be someone from a different game, or someone who isn't involved at all. Mama just floats around and follows and chases you. I've never heard what happens if she does catch you, but just don't get caught. Not a local legend, but weirdest thing I encountered was finding out about the attempted assassination of Pope John Paul II 2 days before it happened. In May 1981, aged 11, I landed with my parents in Mallorca for a holiday in the Spanish Balearic Islands. We boarded the coach to our resort after the flights, and on the short journey to the hotel, the travel rep went through some of the local information and sights to see. And as a kid, I had just about switched off, when with a nervous laugh she ventured, "And you might hear a strange story doing the rounds on the island." She had my attention. "There's an odd rumor. It's that the Pope is going to be assassinated soon, and if he dies, Mallorca is going to be hit with a tidal wave. Some local people have left the island. Of course, it's just a silly story, but just so it doesn't come as a surprise." I remember my young brain trying to compute this. Pope assassination, not good. But even then, it sounded a crazy prophecy. Tidal waves, double not good. We paid it little more thought, until a few days later, an attempt was made on the Pope's life in Rome. He was shot 4 times, and as he fought for his life, we watched the anxious, nervy faces of the hotel staff, and, for the first time, started to feel a little on edge. The rest is history. There was of course no tidal wave. The Pope thankfully survived, and the gunman jailed. So how could we, and probably countless other people on the island, have been party to this information? Coincidence? A premonition? The story we heard was that the gunman had stayed in Mallorca in the weeks beforehand and had shot his mouth off in the bars. As to the tidal wave, well, who can say? Perhaps a case of Chinese whispers as the story spread. It was a weird tale to be part of, but it's not one, surprisingly, I've ever seen or heard recounted. So there it is, May 1981, the Pope, the premonition, and the tsunami that never was.